tours in 1991, when the city was a lot edgier, when Chinatown was a lot dirtier, and certainly a lot less of a destination for a lot of people. The further north we go, we're going east, and then we're going to head north towards Lunch. You're going to start to see a lot of boutiques, a lot of bars. There were no bars, I mean 0 bars, and certainly no boutiques and no Starbucks for miles around. All of that has changed. This area is rapidly gentrifying, even though a fairly large part of it still remains working class and really not really part of that world. When I first started giving tours, there were garment shops, sweatshops everywhere in this area. We'd be standing here and steam would be pouring out of vents on this building because they assemble the clothes here and then put them on, press them and then put them on hangers. And then, even more interesting, I don't know if this building has an elevator, but they would save time, or maybe because the elevator wasn't working, they would attach a cable to an upper window, put a truck across the street, and then send the bundles of hangers of clothing down into the back of the truck hour after hour until the truck was full, and then go up to Midtown. And I at one point I started carrying my camera down here, and I got some great shots of them doing it from this very building. That tall building there was all sweatshops. Most of those garments factories are not, sweatshops by definition are not illegal. What makes them illegal, if they are illegal, are paying below minimum wage, hiring underage workers, not paying overtime, all of that stuff. But so most of them skirted the law at the very least. But most of those garment factories are in the other Chinatowns. I mean, Sunset Park and out in Queens. You see a lot of the, see how kind of old and run down some of the signage here is. This is an area that most of the Lower East Side looked a lot like this until about 10 years ago, and then the rapid, the artists moved in, and then the hipsters moved in, and the, clubs and things, and you'll see a lot of, like this hole in the ground. These were old tenements until just a couple years ago. Clearly somebody's going to build a huge, or certainly a very large apartment complex, condo apartment complex. Way down the end there, that white building that we're going to be heading towards has a Yiddish lettering on the top that says Forward. The great Yiddish Daily Forward, the Yiddish language newspapers. It was vacant when I began doing tours. For 10 years it was vacant, and now it's $1 million co-op apartments.
Quick question. The building over there that we see, not the blonde one, but the larger brick, the configuration, would you assume that was sort of part of a dumbbell tenement?
Yeah. What you see when they tear down buildings here is you start to see the evolution of the tenement. Before 1879, any building like these are all later than 1879, but those are all roughly 1879 era tenements. They were built as rectangles. They had no space between them. So 2 out of every 3 rooms in a tenement apartment, most apartments are 3 rooms, 2 of those 3 rooms had no access to the outside. They had a little light and air coming in through. So just pick any 2 pairs. See the building with the green pediments above the windows? Pick any 2 windows. That's a room with 2 windows, and then go back 1 more room, that's the second room, the kitchen, and go back in 1 more, that's the interior bedroom. So the only light would come from a pair of those windows. What you see here, though, is a post-1879 building, the one with the graffiti on it, and that indentation meant that there'd be the next building built against it would also have an indentation going the other way, and you'd have a little bit of a light and air shaft going down between, and we're talking 3 feet. Very small, very marginal reform, and it's only later, after Jacob Riis convinces people that tenements are really where all, there's so much the source of poverty and suffering. Fix the tenements, you'll fix a lot of problems. You start to see new law tenements, which we don't have an example here, but they're much bigger. They have windows. Every room has a window leading to the outdoors, and the air shafts are much, much larger. They're really shaped like a C or an H to allow a lot more light and air in. That's by law.
I'm assuming that the air shaft sometimes became the garbage shaft, and if you were on the first floor, you wouldn't want to be there.
Right, so here's well, let's show you the back. This is a diagram. The top shows you a typical New York City block before the reform laws. So you not only have tenements jammed up against each other, but you have tenements that are sort of inserted into back alleys. They're called rear tenements. They have no actual address. You go in a building, down through the basement, up into the backyard to get into those tenements. And that's what these are here. So the first dumbbell laws, the 1879 buildings, are here, and you can see the pink area. That's the air shaft. These are looking down. They're very modest reforms, But as was just pointed out, if you lived on the first, second, and third floor, people threw garbage, chamber pots. So the air that you got was really, you ended up keeping your windows closed. And you didn't get much light going down 6 stories.
Are those apartments today over there?
Yeah, these are apartments today, yep.
They would probably look the same.
They would, and what they've done is, well, what's happening successively is people are buying these buildings and then gutting them completely because the floor plan is so, nobody wants to live like that. And it's also below code. So you cut it up and reconfigure the floors and then sell them for $2 million.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Apartment, each one?
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, there's...
The building.
No. The buildings are worth much more than that.
Really?
But individual apartments, sure. I mean, you don't have...
$2 million.
Well, depends on how many rooms you have and in what location, but not far from here. When we go on the side streets, you'll start to see some brand new buildings.
About those buildings right there.
Yeah, buildings like that. It's not beyond the stretch of the imagination.
By the way, I subscribed to the Forward for years. I'd like to find somebody who would mind. I'll put them in school mail to you. It's kind of opened the door to your kids to a whole other world. It's English language.
Yeah, the Forward is still
It
published, but and it's
Yeah.
weekly now instead of daily.
Right,
But it was
right.
the
But they
main
do
newspaper.
keep it.
Let's head in that direction.